is BJ Counsel. I view the world through the lens of having been followed by a white clerk as a child while shopping in a five and dime. I'm a retired police executive and own youve, which gives guidance on surviving interactions with police.
I'm Harmony Chavis, and I view the world through the lens of one of the most misunderstood and diverse generations in our nation's history. I'm a social worker and a believer of radical kindness and love as modalities of healing.
My name is Andrew Counsel. I view the world through the lens of a generational camera phone. I wake up as a black male and go to bed as a black male. I am surviving this never-ending court case we commonly call life in the best way I know how.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us back here at youve. We record out of the Bull City down in Durham, North Carolina. And for those of you who always listen to us, thank you for returning. And for those of you that are new, youve, my name is BJ Counsel, and started this back in 2015. And the primary goal is what we do is we go around and teaching individuals how to safely interact with law enforcement. We started a podcast a little over a year ago, closing in on 2 years, to just kind of talk about not just law enforcement, but things that impact law enforcement. We've talked about defunding police, mental health, anything that kind of can relate to law enforcement, because actually, if you really think about what's going on in this country surrounding the climate and the discussion of law enforcement, it is bigger than law enforcement. So we try to bring in all those different perspectives. So thanks for joining us. This was the first time you've joined us, and hopefully you'll come back again. Tonight's guest is someone that I met, I think back in 2015, because he was just starting his business. He was a captain with Apex back then, and he and I met, and he was starting his business. So we've known each other kind of in that way. He started a business, Blue Lights Academy. It is a prep school for individuals who want to be law enforcement. I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit more about that. He is also the mayor of Apex, North Carolina, which I was like, that's so awesome. So awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, I know a mayor outside of Durham, so it's kind of, I kind of like that. So this is Jacques Gilbert. Again, like I said, he's retired law enforcement as captain, and now he is the mayor, and then he is the owner and principal for Blue Lights Academy. Like I said, it's a prep school for individuals who want to go into law enforcement. And what we're going to be mainly talking about today is the new generation, the next generation of law enforcement. And he is on the forefront of that, getting these new folks that are coming in, the Gen Zs, the whatever you call them now, the millennials, and they are our future. It's going to take a minute. But the leadership, in my opinion, is in the building, and they're coming in, and I have a lot of hope for that. So thank you, Jacques, for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time, because you are a busy guy. And
Yes.
So if you will just kind of give us the whole thing, a little bit about you, and definitely about what your work is with Blue Lights Academy.
Yes. Yeah, excuse me 1 second.
That's
I
okay.
got my dog here.
He's got a
So,
dog
yeah,
with a squeaky toy.
yes.
I mean, all the dog lovers,
Yes.
we okay with that. We okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I just want to thank you, first of all, BJ, for what you are doing with youve. I definitely believe it is truly a shift that we need, and we got to have people like you out there leading. And I really appreciate all the years of service that you gave to Durham. And I watched you from afar, well, not too far in Apex, just down Highway 55. And I was always impressed with how you handle business in Durham. So I really appreciate that. But it's an honor to be here. Blue Lights College or Academy. We're very excited about the work we do. It is a police preparatory college in Apex, North Carolina. And the mission is to bridge the gap between community and police. Really, as you mentioned before, is trying to bring more people into the room to be a part of that change. And that's what we do at Blue Lights College. So we're recruiting young men and women who have just graduated high school. And what we did is we looked at, okay, how can we really attract, looking at some of the past, I would say, initiatives and so-called best practices of going to high schools and recruiting. Sometimes that's effective, many times not. So we thought we would do something different. And what we decided to do is look at what is a universal language for America, and that is athletics. I mean, everybody can relate to athletics. Everybody has their favorite team, go Tar Heels. But but we're looking at that, you know, and said, hey, how can we start a school with athletics and have this curriculum at the same time that really speaks to what we believe is the necessary shift in law enforcement. And that being, of course, what you did for many years is just making sure community comes before policing, and how it has to be a bridge. There has to be people working together to effectuate change. So that's what we did. So we launched in 2017, and in Apex, of course, and we started a men's basketball team that is part of the. You may hear my bird now. My bird is going off. So
we got a regular Noah's Ark around there, don't you, bro?
Yes, yes. Sorry, I think we got it under control now. Okay, so so we have. Let me go back to the athletics. We have a men's basketball team. We had a women's basketball team, and also a men's wrestling. And with those programs, we were able to attract young men and women from all over the nation to attend Blue Lights College. And that was really cool because we really didn't have any idea how many people we would attract.
Right.
So that worked out well for us. And so that's how we got things started. So it was really kind of trying to figure out what is the next best way. And it worked out for us. So here we are, year number 6.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome. I like what you said. I don't know what was going to be the title of the show, but I like community before policing. I think that's what you said.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm totally about that. So I appreciate that. So I think I want to know a little bit more about, so especially for my listeners, I want to go ahead and pump up Blue Lights Academy before we do go into any of these other conversations. How do I do that? Because I'm you know, how, if I'm getting out of 19, I'm getting ready to graduate from high school, like, you know, how do I do that? What does that look like for me as an applicant? Right.
Yeah, it's really the one thing I love about Blue Lights College, and again, trying to change how things look. It is all about looking for people who may just not have any idea what they want to do.
There you go.
Yeah. And that is our candidate. That's what we're looking for. And so with that, you don't have to have any experience or any desire to be a police. We're just looking for people who are looking for options. They may not want to go to a 4-year university or the military. It's whatever you want. whatever you're looking for, whether it's playing basketball or not being an athlete. We're just looking for people who are just trying to find their next step in their life. And what we have found is that people just really haven't had the opportunity to be exposed to really how they can make an impact in policing.
I think that, and I think that's that is so key. I love that, because that is true for a lot of folks. I'm gonna go ahead and get at, when you say that, for me, what the first thing that comes to my brain is the fact, especially for if we're talking about 19 years old, and let's talk about Black kids, especially those in marginalized communities who are doing all they can do, they're getting through high school, and they're like, you know, I just either I can't afford to go to college right now, or I'm just not interested. I don't know what I want to do. And I think policing, as far as the Black community, has not really been something that we have talked about as an option. I was looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we're like number 4 as far as dangerous work, fatalities. And the top one is construction and transportation.
Wow.
I think even before us is like administration, some type of administration work.
Wow.
So, you know, it's, you know, if you sit there and feed on law and order all day long, you got this whole different view of law enforcement, and it's not like that. It's about community and doing it. So I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but for me, we've got to change. Like you said, law enforcement recruiters are going to high schools, they're at HBCUs, but I think it's a shift for the Black culture that we have to change as we talk to our youth. It's okay to be a police officer. It's not a bad thing. I mean, immigrants came over, Irish, that's how they worked their way up. We all know how policing started, and we know that's how middle-class white males, KKK. I mean, that's how they got in, and that's how they worked their way to middle class. I mean, it's a step up, you know? So I don't know how you feel about that.
No, you're exactly right. And, that's my story, BJ. I had no desire to be a police officer.
Thank you.
And I'm
Me
sure you can
either.
relate to that.
Yes, yes,
So it is, I get it.
yes.
You're kind of, I'm gonna use the word educated, from a young age. They're like, hey, this is not an option for you, but you can be a basketball player. You can make it to the NBA and come out of your hood. Okay. That's like a really small percentage of people that can really do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like really just taking a leap of faith and trying it and proving, the odds, and that people were wrong and that I can do this job. And it worked out well for me and you both.
Yes.
So I get where people are, and I would say the stigma attached to policing in the Black culture and how people listen to others to try to paint their road or paint their way and their destiny, and they need to stop that. They just need to really do what's best for them and what they want to do. So
yeah, and thanks for saying that too, because yeah, me too, man. I didn't graduate from I went to college or didn't graduate,
yep.
and friend of mine said, you might be a good police officer. Back then, when I joined, it was public safety. So I got trained as a firefighter and a police officer, right? But I was like, you mean I can do one job? Because I was doing like 3 or 4 part-time gigs, and back then I was like, sign a sister up, because I just need a check. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back to my mom and daddy's, so it's like, yeah. And as you said earlier, you never know how it may affect you, that if you have an innate wanting to serve, this
Yes.
is it. This is it. You
I agree.
Yeah, with except because I started out as a sociology, wanted to be a social worker, and
Wow.
here I am.
Yeah.
Front door social
Yes.
worker, right on the ground, loving every second of it, which is absolutely correct. Yeah. Absolutely
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I really do. So tell me what's it like? How do you feel? Because you are on the ground with these young Gen Zs.
Yes.
You're with the future. And I was, like I said, I was telling folks. I mean, I was trying to let the community know. So your leaders are in the building right now. They're in the building and they're patrolling. At some point, they're going to be. That's your police reform. So I kind of like to see what you're thinking as you do your work, with blue lights and the kids that are coming through today. I mean, how do you feel about you're actually molding police reform at your fingertips? You're having an impact on the ground. So I mean, just kind of give us some insight as to the future of law enforcement, especially those folks that are coming through your doors.
Yes. What I want to talk about first is how it was, again, the word doubt and doubt being with what I had as far as like, hey, do I really want to try this? Is this really a good profession for me?
Right.
I had that. And then I want to kind of transition to the doubt of Blue Lights College when I first introduced this to police chiefs, right, and the doubt from those individuals.
Yeah.
And I will say, one who I really thought would embrace it actually said, no, I can't endorse it. And my response was, why not? And it was simply because, well, I've never seen anything like this, and I don't know if it'll work.
Wow.
I'm like, wow.
Wow.
So
wow.
That really got me. And this is a person I really thought would really be a champion of it.
Right.
But of course, once other chiefs started doing it, this person came back and was like, oh yeah, I'm all in. So
I just didn't want to be the first one.
Exactly. So that doubt was there, but also the doubt of, again, those young men and women who came into the program at Blue Lights College. They saw something different about it, but really what their interest was is, I just want to go to a school that's non-traditional, and a small school that I feel like is part of a family. And that's how we're attracting these people to come. I want to tell you a successful story about a young man named Richard Campbell.
Yeah.
Richard Campbell moved here from Youngstown, Ohio in our inaugural class in 2017.
Wow.
And he came here to play basketball. He was a very dynamic point guard, just to play ball. And but he never got the opportunity to play at the next level because he didn't really have the grades. And so he came to Blue Lights looking for kind of that stepping stone. And most young men on our basketball team do that. But through the process, we were just kind of like, not intentionally, we're just like, hey, just go through the curriculum. We have great classes here that speaks to how you can make the change in policing, but we're not going to pressure you like you have to be a police. All right. So, because we feel like pressuring would maybe move them in a whole different direction.
Right.
So the curriculum actually worked out. We're actually hinting to him like, hey, you should think about it, Richard. Nah, I'm not interested, you know. And he had this kind of like this I would say this attitude, like, no, I'm just, you know, I'm not, there's no way I could be a police officer. So, you know, my daughter got involved. My daughter was even talking to him like, man, you really need to think about your options. This was like the month before graduation for the 2-year program. And, but anyways, he had all these other offers from colleges that said, you can come play with us at the next level.
Wow.
And my daughter said something to him. She said, so are you getting full rides? He's like, no, they're partial. And so what is some of the figures? And it was like 28,000 here, 32,000. So she was like, so basically is there any financial aid? He was like, well, I don't think I'm gonna get much. So she was like, okay, so basically you're gonna pay, you guys gonna pay to play basketball. Yeah. Because he still didn't know what he wanted to do, had no idea. And then graduation day, he walked up to me and says, you know what, Cap, I want to be a police officer. And I was like, yeah, right. You know, I didn't believe him.
Yeah.
But he knew it. So by the way, his grades were, oh my gosh, they were perfect. He was on a dean's list every semester. So he had the grades. And so we end up just saying, okay, so he was already ready because our curriculum gets you prepared for BLET as well. That's the last half semester of the school. And then he got through BLET successfully, and now he's a successful Apex police officer. He's been there 3 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
So he's just one of several that had that just coming to the program and seeing something different.
Right.
And that's where we are with it.
Wow. So as far as the training is concerned, what is it that you're training that you feel like is a little different? And when you and I both know, and you probably better than I, BLET hasn't changed in 40 plus years,
right.
which is, you know, not a good thing. But what is it that you're doing that you feel like is preparing them for this climate and beyond? I mean, what is it that you're offering them? For me, and it's about just, I mean, how is it you helping people on, I mean, your folks understand it's about humanity. I mean, it's just about simply caring about, you know, you just have to remember you're talking to another human being who's having a crisis.
That's right.
For the most part.
That's it.
You know,
that's it.
I don't know about you, but I'd have never chased a murderer through any streets in Durham at all. Now, you know what I'm saying? Never, my entire career. You know, now I'm chasing folks that are on drugs or have mental health, stuff like that. But I've never, you know, the stuff you see on TV, that's just not what we do. So what is it that you believe we need to do, not what, especially what you're doing, and what do we need to do as far as how we train officers? What is it that we're missing and need now?
I'm right. You know, go back to what you just said. It's all about humanity. We know in BLET, the status quo, nothing has really changed. And of course, I know because I'm still connected to a certain community college that has the BLET program. Right. And but for us, what we say is, okay, those of you who are aspiring to be police, and even those who go on that really didn't have the intent at the beginning, but you get ready to transition into BLET, we say this from day one. Like when you get to BLET, they're going to try to shift your mindset to look at every person as a potential threat.
There you go.
And everything is about defensive. Like here's the worst case scenario. Like, and this is how we're going to train you. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's where things have gone wrong. Here at Blue Lights College, we're just teaching you about life skills, but we're also teaching you how to look at every person as a member of society. Yes. And that people can recover. And people, while you may have to arrest them, what is the next step for that? Like, are you going to try to give them an opportunity for recovery or whatever the case may be. So we teach that through many courses that we have here, but we do have some of the same courses as BLET. So we're getting them prepared for BLET as well, like criminal law components.
Yeah.
Like we break that down and so they can really have a better understanding.
Mhm.
Leading through empowerment, community youth, all those things, constitutional law. But we also talk about financial responsibility. So when you become a police officer, you know how to handle your finances,
Yes.
financial literacy, all of that, and law enforcement leadership. We even have one of our courses is Police Family Foundation. So we all understand how it does take a toll on relationships when you're a police officer.
Yes.
So we've given you all of those things about the life of a police, but at the same time, here's how you can really contribute to a community through policing. And as well as I do, you were well known. You were a superstar in the community because your name was out there a lot. Everybody talked about BJ Counsel. So what I try to tell these young people is like, you can have the same impact. It's just in a different way. And I will say there's no other profession like it that you really have that significant impact on the community. So again, we go back to, it's all about humanity and treating people with dignity and respect, and basically treat them how you want to be treated, even in the situations where you have to make an arrest. They're still people. So again, going into it, telling them that they're going to try to change your mindset, but stick to what we taught you.
Yeah. And you're so right. I was somebody did a study and they were talking about that. You're exactly right, that law enforcement BLETs across the country, it's all about getting home no matter what. That you go into every situation just super pumped up, you're just looking for the worst case scenario. I mean,
Yes.
I get that, but
yeah,
I understand that. But when you really think about it, yeah, it's dangerous, but it ain't law and order every day. Ain't nobody
right,
solving,
right.
Ain't nobody solving no crime in 35 minutes. I mean, come on,
right. That's right.
Tell us a break.
Yeah.
And just recognizing, I was because I'm doing some work down at Kinston, and and the thing is, we're trying to get officers to understand. I mean, I would love for you to go, officer counsel is good, but I'd rather you see me as BJ.
Right.
I'd rather you see, yes, you see my uniform, but it's up to me to make sure that you see this individual in the uniform.
Yes.
And people have to remember, so you're doing really good work, obviously, and God, I really love that. I mean, because that is so important. And there's so many people out here that want to do that. I think and it's a different world. One of the guys at Kinston said, these group of individuals that are coming in are more diverse and they're more inclusive.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, they're way more
Yes.
inclusive than some of the folks we used to
Yes.
work with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No doubt. I know what
Yeah,
you're
I know,
saying.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so and people need to know that. And so that leadership is coming into the building and is coming into police reform.
That's right.
So how do you, let's just talk about how do we have the conversation with the Black, because I'm all done. Whatever you tell me, I'm probably gonna put it on my speech too. But how do you have this conversation with our Black community and elders, that when we see them, this is an opportunity for your kid that you may not be able to afford school, they may not know, like you said, know where they want to do. This is a good career. I mean, I'm catching a check every month.
Right. Yes, no doubt. I'm set.
Sitting right here, catching a check.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's for you, what would be the conversation for our community? If you were standing in front of, churches, how do we change this mind shift in the Black community that this is an opportunity for us at this moment? This is a good opportunity right now for us.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the time is right now. It really is. And I've obviously you have history in policing, I do, but I've never seen it like this. This is huge. And this is the moment we've been all praying for, waiting for. And I would start out by saying, hey, I could never take away the experiences that people before me had with regard to police interaction. Like, who could take that away? And there are many scars there, I'm sure.
Right.
At the end of the day, though, look at people who want to make that positive change, transformation. Like we need people in the new generation, next gens, to be out there and be a part of that. transformative change. So
Mhm.
I would tell them, hey, let this generation make that impact, and trust in it, and trust the people who basically have been in the building before
Right.
and know where we're headed. So and again, it's all about the trust. And I think people who look like you and I can have that impact in the Black community. And but I will tell you this, BJ, I don't know if you had this experience, but my first 10 years in my own hometown, Apex, North Carolina, as a police officer, was probably the worst 10 years of my career.
Really?
With my community members that the area I grew up in. Again, it was betrayal. That was the perception. That was the label. And you know where I'm going with it.
Yes.
But it was like after that 10th year, they shifted. It was like, he's our hero. It was really odd.
Yeah.
So so I just asked those, that again, trust those who've been there, and also are championing the new generation of police officers, and it won't be an overnight change, but it's step by step, and each individual can go in one by one and be a part of that change.
Well, you just said a lot right there, and it really is. We can't, the scars of policing history, we all recognize that, and so there's nothing that we can. I mean, we need to acknowledge it and realize that that's part of what policing is about. And I'm sure, I don't know what kind of conversation you have, but I think for me, especially young officers, have to understand it's not you, it's the uniform and the history. You got to understand it. Don't take that personal. And
right.
But the person in that uniform has to do the heavy lifting. You have to do that work because there's just so much distrust.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know how do you do that, Jacques? How do you tell a young person who's going to be law enforcement right now, especially a young white male, having to step into a Black community, and we know how they're looking at him or
yes.
her. How do you tell them how do you tell them to deal with that? Because that's a lot. I mean, I know it is. I know that is.
Right.
So, what kind of advice are you giving them as far as you just got to get the work done? Or how do you?
Yeah. Yeah, my advice is this, like, that I always ask the question, like, do you believe you've been called to do this? And of course, yes, I believe it. No, answer the question, do you believe you've been called to do it, or is this something that you're seeking to do on your own? And I think that's a separation, because one thing that we have a 7-week program also that's a career changer, as opposed to the 2-year. And what we're doing there is there are people who may already be in a specific profession and they make a change. Maybe they watch Cops one night or whatever those shows are, and they believe that they can go in and do that. Well, this 7-week program is very intense. It's every Saturday for 7 consecutive weeks. It's a mirror police academy. And what we do is we give you an opportunity to see if this is really your calling.
Wow.
And so when you go into the BLET, you won't go in there and fail because it wasn't really your calling in the first place. And by the way, you get to keep your job. You don't just like abandon your profession prematurely. So the reason I bring that up is because I always say, is this truly your calling? You know that it's going to be your passion, because you already know inherently there's going to be a risk associated with what you're doing.
Yes.
You can't take that away.
Yeah.
So really what irritates me, I'm gonna be straight honest, transparent here. A police officer should never beg for people to thank them for what they do. And I know that sounds strange, but it's appreciated, but you shouldn't expect it. Because I think when you start expecting it, you want more and more of it. Right. And then when it doesn't come, it's going to discourage you. And so you go into it being a courageous individual, knowing that there's always a risk. But you go in and you continue to be the person that was sent because you were called to do it. And if you do that, there's going to be things that kind of will challenge you, will ruffle your feathers, but you still stay the course and you continue to be that person who was called.
Wow.
And usually when I have that conversation with them, it's something clicks and they continue to march forward.
That's really cool. Yeah, you're right, because they gotta want to do it, because it's going to be some rough days.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be some rough days, and I appreciate the fact too that you're talking about your rough 10 years. I mean, but you grew up in that. I mean, you were basically known in Apex, right? Is that
Yes.
kind of, yeah? And then you became a police officer. I can't even. I would ride around sometimes and I'd see some of these young guys when I was out there. I would say, come on, guys, I need you to join the popo, be the police. And they're like, no, I don't want to be no snitch. And then they would say something like, well, I know everybody. I said, well, perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. No. And yeah, and they didn't connect the dots.
Yeah. It's a missed opportunity for sure. And we just got to keep working. But I believe it's going to be, as you mentioned, the next gen's in the door, and they're going to make that change. You and I are passing the baton. We're giving them that wisdom, but they're gonna help more of the generation understand it's okay. Like Richard Campbell, I keep bringing his name up.
Yeah,
he still wears his earrings off duty and buys his sneakers and does his thing. I mean, obviously, he keeps it professional when he's at work, and then he still enjoys himself off duty. And I think that's what people need to understand. You don't have to make this your identity. And I think that also gets people in trouble.
Yes.
Because they like, I'm the police. And that's what young people have to say. You know what? It's a job.
Yes.
I'm passionate about it, but I turn it off.
Yes.
And I'm Jacques. Like you say, you're BJ. It's not, don't identify me by the uniform.
That's right.
That's not who I am.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, I am so glad you said it, because I have said that so many times. And that's actually part of my conversation when I do UM5. I said, folks, y'all got to remember, I'm working toward a job performance. Just like you are. I'm trying to tick off the boxes like everybody else. Y'all got to remember, we're all doing job performance. And, and that's the part when I talk about, if you don't get the service, then you need to file complaints, because you want your officers to be professional and blah, blah, blah. And I think, and luckily people have gone, you know what, I didn't think about it like that. We have just done, the media and all that has done such a hype as to what law enforcement is. And now that that hype or that pedestal is crumbling, they don't even reckon we're human beings, folks. Come on now. Yeah. I got baby mama drama too. And so what? And so I appreciate you saying that, because it really is that don't identify me, because I got stuff going on too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other thing that you said that I love too is a financial piece that you're teaching them. I don't know about your world. I mean, I didn't do a lot of off-duty work because I can't stay in that monkey suit, but I just can't. It was too lazy. But you got officers that get off work, go work off duty, and that off-duty money ends up being money they depend on to pay the bills. And then they get out here and chase a bad guy, blow out a knee, can't work off duty for a year and a half.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you another example. Kalik Everett. Kalik Everett came here to wrestle. He was a great wrestler down from Greenville. And he came to our program in 2018. And he didn't have the grades, but he could have went to a Division II school easily. Oh, wow. So he came to Blue Lights College. He graduated. He bought his first house at the age of 20.
Oh my God.
So what I share with these guys is like, you can be like, you're the story that they need to see. They need to read about. Yes. And he's not a police officer, but what he is he's a district supervisor for a national security company. Wow. That's what he does. So it's actually aligned with
law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, you got a bunch of good stories, man. We're definitely gonna put your link in there and everything when we promote it out there, so folks can know about you. I mean, I know we were pushing your stuff out there as well, because this is good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just think for me, it's just how do we let folks know this is an opportunity? I mean, you can come right out of high school. I mean, I was looking at and you probably have done this, I was looking at the price salaries, and
yes.
I was looking at not Mayberry, what is it, Mount Pilot, somewhere up there, right?
Yeah, Pilot Mountain.
Somewhere, in the area where Mayberry would have been if it was a place, right?
Yes.
It's $44,000 a year. I mean,
Wow.
what's happening up there in Mayberry?
Nothing. Like, it's easy. It's easy change. Put it in your pocket.
$44,000. I'm like, come on, y'all. And y'all don't see that as an opportunity, you know, and I don't want to make people, you know, think it's not something, it may not be a career for you, but it could be a stepping stone for you.
A stepping stone.
It can pay
That's right.
if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to go to college. I mean, yeah.
And
So yeah.
So many transferable skills from policing. And I tell people all the time, like, they said, how do you feel from going from a police captain to become the mayor? Like, oh my gosh, that was like the training ground.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
You have to work. You have to work. You have to work with people. You have to mediate. You have to be able to be objective in policing, right? You just can't be biased.
Right.
Bias-based policing, that's not a good thing. So it's the same with leadership of the town.
Yeah.
The exact same. And then building relationships, like, that's what you do as a police officer, and that actually benefited me well to transition over.
Yeah, I'm impressed. The mayor. Mayor Gilbert, I love it.
Thank you.
Oh, before I go, I kind of want to go back to what you kind of made something else come up in my mind about, you know, the transition, but the young officers now. You and I both came up during a time where I know who I was sitting next to, right?
Yeah.
And that was okay because it didn't really, I knew who I was sitting next to in the squad room, right? But all we cared about was, you just need to make sure you show up for me behind my calls. Do your job, you get in your car, I'll get in mine, I'll see you on the next shift, right? And then when I ended up retiring, some folks that I was like, oh yeah, turned out to be like, oh my God, did not know, right? Did not know. I guess when I'm asked how, it's different, right? So those individuals knew that they got to pay a mortgage, they got to pay college. And so we didn't know. And now what we have in this climate, we have officers who are putting everything in how they feel, their biases and all that stuff in this space, and you can't have it. I mean, if that's who you are, that's who you are, but you can't do that in my uniform. Mm-hmm. I just want your opinion on that. I mean, because I'm old school, I knew who was in the room, right? But that was all. They did their job. But we got along because it was a job. Yes. Now I got to tell everybody who I am. I'm putting on social media now as the police, and it just don't work like that today. So tell me how you feel about that, and how do we do? Because everybody wants to be. Jacques, I had a guy, one of my workshops, he asked me out loud, how do you not hire racist? Ooh. And I said, there ain't no box for that, boo. Ain't no box for that. You know, so tell me your opinion of that. What, how we work with that.
Yeah, that is huge right there. You said something really interesting that really stands out. You and I didn't have to really worry about social media as much. Mm-hmm. That will actually, we probably could have learned quicker who we were working with by just watching social media. Yeah. But I think that actually helped control many things. And what police officers need to understand is you can't have it both ways. You can't say, the First Amendment covers me, I can say what I want to say, but at the same time, where you called out on it for saying something that actually violates policy within the police department based on what you said, you don't get a free pass. So I think that's one of the things that we're struggling with too. While things are popping up, it's really helpful for us to monitor who these individuals are. Now in the background check, we're going through social media. We're going through candidate social media to see who are you? And I think that really helps as far as screening people. Right. So I think we got to continue to do that. And that goes back to my next thing. I'm glad you brought us down this road. Policing will never change just by only a person from the Black community coming in. It's more than that. It could be Black, white, Asian, Latino. Yes. It's got to be people who are willing to step up and say, this police officer did something wrong. And I'm telling it.
Mhm.
And that's when the culture changes.
Yes.
Because you and I both know if you say something, you could be ostracized, you could be kind of cast out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because the culture is set up that way.
Right.
So until those type of things start happening and it's made, I would say, noticeable that people say, oh, wow, this happened, it's never going to change.
Right.
So people got to be held accountable inside the organization, and people got to be willing to step up and say, yep, they did it.
Yep.
I'm sticking to my word.
Yes. Yes. And that's part of that leadership. I mean, that's the part of new leadership coming in, and then the leaderships that those who are progressive and get it, that
Yes.
They've got to change. When, like you said, if BJ says Jacques did something, and then you are held accountable internally, that sets the tone, and that
Yes.
changes the culture, because now, oh, I ain't gonna do that because, you know, I got a mortgage, you know. So unless you start doing that internally, that's leadership. So if the leadership is saying they're doing something outside, but they're winking on the inside, that's, you know, and it's going to take time. And you're
Right.
you're part of that movement that's going to change that, because you're creating the new generation. You're creating, you're bringing in not just Black and brown, but all the allies. That this is the moment. This is the moment. If you really want to do police reform, you have got to be in the building. You can't stand out in the street and say, well, you don't have any Black sergeants. Well, there ain't no Black police officers. You know, because I mean, you know, I can't make them a sergeant if they ain't in the room. You know?
Yes, right. You gotta be in a room.
Yeah,
You got to be in a room.
You gotta be. In Kinston, you know, they're actually not able to hire to do promotions for sergeants because they don't. You're talking about just the years. They want you at least have 5 years of experience. They're so young. And I know that's across the country. I mean, you got, I know Durham has that issue, because a friend of mine still does recruiting. You got 3-year persons working who are now training a rookie. So you got rookies training rookies.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
so
that's that part. You know, so it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So yeah. So any kind of parting words you want to say before we kind of roll on to the end? I have enjoyed this conversation. This is. I know folks who are listening. I really need you to understand that what he's doing is prepping folks to be law enforcement, and he's giving them a chance to check to see if this is what they want to do, but giving them a little bit more, because he and I both agree that BLET in this state and other states across this country have not changed, and we've got to do something different for this generation, because you know, we got to it's about humanity. That is the first thing that we've got to put into this training. It just cannot be rigid. Get that it's paramilitary, but it's a different kind of day. So yeah, so leave us with some wisdom.
Yeah, again, thank you for the opportunity to be on this incredible interview show. You've done some powerful things with UN50, and I would just say it's working. And then I'll transition to say that everyone can be a part of a change. Like, yes, we obviously want to encourage people to get into the room, but also if you're active in your community and you know you're demanding, and I'm gonna use that word, demanding police to be transparent about what they're doing, you know, demanding that policy changes are in place, but just don't talk about it. Like, be in the room as well. Go to council meetings, go to the police department, and give them an opportunity. Like, let them talk with you, and let them share their ideas as well, because there could be some things that you may not know about that could be hindering certain things to take place. So I would just encourage conversation as we're doing today. And then I will also want to, anyone who's listening that knows any young people that are graduating high school and they may not know their next course, and maybe they don't want to go to a traditional college or the military, and they're just looking for an opportunity to change their life, please consider Blue Lights College, bluelightscollege.org. I appreciate you, you know, putting a link up that people can really go in and explore what we do. And I think what we're doing is one person at a time. We're changing law enforcement for the better. So I just thank you for your support, and again, continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're definitely going to be putting it up in the link so folks can do that. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for the work that you do. and are doing will continue to do. I'm just, yeah, that's why I was like, for folks, I've been trying to get him on my show. He's just been so busy because especially just changing this conversation, because the universe and I don't know, there's something in my soul. And so we've got to start having this conversation, and that we need to change this. We need to get, Black and brown folks involved in law enforcement and our allies. This is the moment for police. If you want police reform, you got to be a part of it. You got to be in the building. You got to be in the building. It's not going to happen, because I don't know how many people may agree with this, but for me, and I've said this often, is police reform is going to start on the street. It's not going to start with a major. It's not going to start with a chief. It's going to start at that first interaction. That's
so
where
true.
police reform is going to start. Nowhere
So
else.
true.
Nowhere else.
You're on the money. You knocked that out of the park.
So thank you folks for joining us, and thanks again, Jacques, for joining us, the CEO of Blue Lights Academy, the mayor of Apex, retired captain. He just got all this stuff. He got probably 20 pages he need to fill out and let you know who he be. So yeah,
just trying to be like you.
Yeah, right. So thanks again, Jacques, for joining us, and for those of you that are my faithful folks, thanks for joining us again. And for those of you that may be new to the podcast, thank you for joining us. Hope you'll join us again. And as always, stay well, stay safe, peace.